But yet the question remains that the movement has not been able to acquire, hasn't been able to move beyond its
I agree with
local experience and generalize and integrate with various other political economic locations.
I agree with you, but in that sense, who am I really to suggest things? Because I really don't know the situation on the ground as well as they do. But if you ask me, I think, that before moving to a stage of guerrilla warfare and the establishment of guerrilla zones, one needs to spread the mass movement of the rural poor wider. One needs to do that, as well as actually one needs to build up its urban counterpart, and mainly among the urban working class, its urban counterpart, before you actually move on to a higher stage of what is in a Maoist strategy. And I think there are a lot of lessons that one can learn from China between the late 20s and up to 1949, in this respect. There are things that still, I think, can be learned, but that is a personal view. If you look at actually the program of the new party, the CPI Maoists, if you look at their program and their strategy, it's all on the internet. You can on this site called Banned Thought, actually you can access it and you can see it. In fact, they say what I am just saying. It's not that I have thought of this thing just like that. I have thought of these things after closely reading their own political program, their own strategy and so on. And there are elements of these in that strategy, in that program, but they have not been allowed to implement these things. They have not been allowed to implement these things. Surely there would be failures and so on. But I think, given the way the Indian state is organized, the repressive apparatus of the Indian state, as well as the way the judiciary functions, I think, that hope has, has not been realized.
So would you then say that actually there is a need to envisage Maoism beyond the CPI Maoist? I mean, what I am trying to say is that it is not merely the task of the Maoists to expand this entire multi-location constellational politics of working class insurrection. Do you think that various locations and various working class forces located in different varying political economic locations need to reclaim the logic that the Maoists are expressing in their own location? Do you think that could be one way of doing it?
Surely, I mean, see, here we are getting back to Mao's legacy. Now, Mao's legacy, nobody has a monopoly over Mao's legacy, okay? Nobody has a monopoly over Mao's legacy, and I don't think the CPI Maoists even would claim a monopoly over Mao's legacy in India. Surely, and I think Mao's legacy is open to all, who in some way, are close to his method, the way he interpreted Marx's method, so his method, and a lot of other things that he stood for. I think, Maoist China, Maoist China, and when I say Maoist China, I think up to the late 60s, up to the late 60s. So the period, post-liberation, 1949 up to the late 60s, there is a lot to learn from that, critically. I think one has to be critical in that learning. There are lots of things which happened which should never have happened, and one can talk about those also, but but more important at this stage, I think, is this period, the late 20s to up to 1949, the period of what is called New Democratic Revolution, and what one can learn. So surely Mao's legacy is open to all. It's open to all who share it, and who are willing to take the risk. There are big risks, involved in what you intend to do.
So basically, then moving away from the CPI Maoist and trying to address this question of a wider constellational, multitudinous working class movement, what do you think is the greatest ideological challenge or obstacle that needs to be overcome I mean, what is the task that the larger working class movement needs to set itself in ideological terms so that this constellation of movements can actually come to their fruition?
You asked me something which I don't think I'm that.
I mean, it's purely your own subjective assessment of it.
Really, if I were to begin to try and find an answer to this, one would have to really go back to the Communist Manifesto, actually. Every time you read it, you get some new insights from it. So I don't know what to say, but at this point in time, I mean, related to your question, I think there is this thing about unity there. Unity, workers of the world unite. And there is this thing about an essential unity of the workers of the world. And I think that is something which has got lost in party politics. Surely, parties on Leninist lines, I would endorse it as the most practical way of getting to socialism. But I think a kind of sectarianism, the kind of divisions on various bases being justified on all kinds of grounds and so on, that one needs to overcome. One really needs to overcome. So in a sense, one has to get back to this essential unity that Marx and Engels were talking about, that communists need to achieve, and that's a must in today's world. And when I say unity, it goes beyond the communist movement. I think all who stand for socialism in one way or another, socialism defined even in utopian terms, need to be brought in and taken here. An essential unity of the working people of the world.